Hello, people out there. For those of you who follow my channel, you may or may not know that I've been trying to find and film Louisiana's most common venomous snake, the copperhead, since last year. But my luck with finding copperheads is pretty bad, to say the least. Though I actually managed to find a baby copperhead at the same spot a few months back on the day I wasn't filming. Funny enough, this location is not known to have copperheads, and it caught me completely by surprise. That was just a little baby though. I want to find an adult for y'all. Today, I was not targeting copperheads and instead was looking for other snakes, and a copperhead was the last thing on my mind. But sure enough,
Copperhead, holy big copperhead. Big copperhead. Holy huge copperhead. Oh my goodness. That is a huge copperhead. Holy crap. What? Look at that thing. That's a cottonmouth sized copperhead. Hey, babe, look at this. That's a copperhead. That's a huge copperhead. What? That is the biggest copperhead I've ever seen. All right, so this is the southern copperhead, and this is an absolutely massive southern copperhead. This is the biggest one I have ever seen, and this is not a spot that typically gets copperheads. I was not expecting, well, I halfway expected to get a copperhead out here, but it was definitely not on the to-do list to find out here. And this is an absolutely massive copperhead. This one's he's pushing close to 3 feet, if not 3 feet. And that's a big copperhead. He is an absolute tank of a copperhead. And as you can see, copperheads really do not like staying on hooks. It is really hard to keep them on hooks. They just don't like staying on hooks. And he is not settling down at all. I was kind of hoping I could just sit him here while I talk about him, but he is just not stopping whatsoever, so I'm just gonna have to handle him to keep him moving. But the southern copperhead is what I regard Louisiana's most common venomous snake. You can get them in a wide variety of habitats. What they prefer is hardwood bottomlands here in Louisiana, but they'll also be found in pine forests as well as upland hardwood forests around the edges of swamp margins, and they can be found in some pretty rural areas, which makes them so common, and why I regard them as being one of Louisiana's more dangerous venomous snakes, because they can be found around people quite often. Copperheads as a whole throughout the United States are responsible for the most amount of hospitalized snake bites, and I think they're up there with the second highest fatality rate of snake bite cases in the US. And it's mainly because their defensive behavior is to pretty much sit still when they're found. They pretty much sit still on the ground when they're found. They don't run away like a water snake will. They'll stand their ground and rely on their camouflage, and that's what gets them stepped on. They get them stepped on. People who might be gardening in their yards, they go sticking their hand somewhere where they can't see it, or they may not see the snake, and then boom, they get tagged on their hand. My old math teacher was actually bitten by a copperhead walking down the stairs of her porch, and she actually needed to get airlifted to a hospital because she lived so far away out in the country. So these snakes do wind up biting a lot of people because of that reason, which is why I regard them as one of our more dangerous snakes. Though with the amount of people that they do bite, only about a quarter of those people do die. Most of the time, it is more of the elderly people who wind up dying from copperhead bites, and it's because copperhead venom acts on the blood. It is a hemotoxin that destroys red blood cells, causes lots of swelling, lots of pain. A lot of people will downplay copperhead venom, and while it is true that copperheads are one of our more lesser toxic snakes in the US, they're still medically significant. It's still a bad bite. You still don't want to risk not going to the hospital if you're bitten, because quite a few people who do get bitten. Sorry about that, camera died on me. So like I was saying, the copperhead's venom is a hemotoxin that destroys red blood cells, and when it comes to the elderly, typically the elderly people tend to have health problems about that mess with their blood. So when you take somebody who's already got blood problems and they get bitten by a snake whose venom attacks blood, it's just gonna speed up the whole process, and that's why most people bitten by copperheads who do die are elderly people. Now, even as common as copperheads are, I seldomly see these snakes, and it's not so much as a matter of me not being in their habitat. It's more of a matter of when these snakes are active. These snakes are not going to be like other snakes. They're not going to be moving around a whole lot like other snakes are, like a racer or a rat snake or a water snake is. They're very crepuscular, which means they're mainly active in the mornings, evenings, and are very nocturnal during the summer months. So typically, if I want to find a copperhead, I have to get up really, really early to beat the sun, because these snakes don't like it when it's too hot. They don't really like it when it gets over 75 degrees. So once the sun gets pretty high in the sky and it's pretty hot, these snakes go hiding under stuff. Typically have to hike for them in between about 7 o'clock to 11 o'clock is their hiking window in most of my areas where I go for them. And the best way to see them is by flipping, like I did with this snake, or by cruising. But unfortunately, here in my area, there's not a whole lot of places to flip these snakes. This is only the second copperhead I've ever actually flipped. All my other copperheads were hiked. There's just not a lot of places where I can go to flip these snakes. And cruising is another good way to see these snakes. There's more places I can go cruising for these snakes, and I have tried to cruise for them before, but have been unsuccessful at cruising them as of yet. Now, for those of you who don't want to see these snakes and may get them in your yard and stuff, the best way to deter snakes in your yard is to not have any trash around. Snakes, especially copperheads, they love clutter. This one was found under like a piece of siding, and if you got anything like that in your yard, snakes gonna love that. And also, copperheads, they're mainly gonna be eating mice and frogs. So if you've got any sort of stuff that might attract mice, that's gonna be attracting copperheads. As for frogs, you can't really do much for frogs. Can't really do much to keep frogs away. I had one guy who contacted me who kept on getting copperheads in his yard, and he would only ever see them at night, and he would see multiple copperheads in his yard, and I would come out there during the day not seeing anything. There's nothing quite in his yard apart from frogs living in his yard. His yard backs up to some woods, and the copperheads, they lived out there in the woods. They wouldn't stay in his yard. They would just come out into his yard at night, and there wasn't really much I could really do. Copperheads are relatively small venomous snakes. This is a really, really big one. The biggest one ever was about just a little over 4 feet, I think. It was a northern copperhead that I believe, I can't remember where it was found, but it was a northern copperhead. The southerns don't get quite as big as the northerns, but average size for a southern copperhead is about 2 feet. So this one is definitely way above average size. I have had people tell me that they've seen them bigger than this, and I would have to say they're either lying or talking about a different snake, because seeing a copperhead of this size is not very common. He's a little bit tired out and calm now. At first he was all over the place. I couldn't get him to sit still. I could not get him to sit still for nothing. And normally copperheads are not pretty bitey snakes. He definitely threw a few strikes at me. Typically I don't have them too nippy, but you can get some pretty nippy ones like this one. The ones here in Louisiana, southern copperheads here in Louisiana, I'd say are the best in any state that they're found. We got some of the best looking copperheads, and this guy is no exception. He is a stellar looking copperhead. He's probably the second best looking copperhead I've ever seen. A lot of people will actually one snake that a lot of people will confuse copperheads for are actually baby cottonmouths. A lot of people send me pictures of baby cottonmouths and tell me that that is a copperhead. And baby cottonmouths do look a good bit different than adult cottonmouths. They have a much lighter color to them, which will lead people to believe that they are baby copperheads. Now, cottonmouths and copperheads are actually in the same family. Their family is known as Echistrodon. And the two snakes can actually make a hybrid. It's called a cottonhead hybrid. It's a naturally occurring hybrid in the wild, because these snakes can be found in the same habitats, in the same ranges. One thing I wish I could show you is how well this snake can camouflage on the leaf litter, but out here there's not really much leaf litter on the ground in this region where we're at today. I was kind of hoping that whenever I did find a copperhead, it would be somewhere where I could show you how camouflaged they can be. This is not a habitat that is known for copperheads, but they are here. And you can see he stands out pretty well on this sandy ground. So they're not going to be super camouflaged out here. And out here there's not a whole lot of them. They're not found a lot out here in New Orleans. So out here, this is definitely an uncommon find. But I think that's about all I can say about the copperhead. We're gonna go take him back to his piece of artificial cover, and we're gonna keep on looking for snakes today. All right, as you can see here, we've got the safe handling bucket. I want to film him away from his cover in some more shady areas. Very sunny over here, and it's not very natural. There he is. We're just gonna get him up out of there. And he was under that little piece right there. There you go. Go back under there. There he goes. Whew, man. That is a massive copperhead, man. That is a massive copperhead. Maybe I'll see him again one day.